What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and I was wrong. Bitmain did not delay the Kaspa miners like they typically have done in the past with both the Kadena miners as well as the Dash miners. So it's up in the air now as to how the coin price is going to be impacted along with difficulty, etc. Let's go ahead and get into the details right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. BT Miners has been a longtime sponsor of the channel and a proven reliable source for ASIC miners. If you're looking to purchase ASIC hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners is a trusted source by both ASICminervalue.com and CryptoMiner.com. Follow the affiliate link in the description and tell them SOT sent you to support the channel. Welcome back, everybody. So to start things off, basically what we are seeing is a shipment or an announcement of shipments for batch 1 of the Bitmain KS3 Kaspa ASIC miners. And that is on today, August 21st, 2023. There was this assumption that they were going to delay it like they have in the past with a lot of their other altcoin miners like the KA3 for Kadena, and that we would start to see a spike in the hash rate on the network from Bitmain testing the units. Now, Bitmain has been testing the units. If we take a look at, for example, the mining pool stats.stream page, we can see the F2 pool has had a steady increase. Interestingly enough, here just recently, there is this quick little dip off. Now, presumably what's been going on is that they have been slowly adding units to test and then pulling them off the network. And this is actually a smart play if they don't want to tank the coin right away, right? Or tank the possibility of selling a second batch, which they have also announced. And surprisingly enough, here with the second batch, we're going to get better hash rates on these KS3 units. They're going to go from the 8.3 terahash a second at 3,300 watts to 9.4 terahash a second at 3,500 watts. So yes, a little bit more power consumption and a little bit more hash rate on the second batch of KS3s. So if you purchase the first batch, unfortunately, I guess you're just going to have to deal with the 8.3, which is still going to be extremely profitable right now, but not as profitable as you might think once they start hitting the actual network. So from third-party retailers that we've heard, we are aware of at least 2,500 units that are ready. And that does mean in general that we are going to see a spike in the network hash rate from the current 12 petahash a second, as you can currently see on mining pool stats, to presumably around 33 petahash a second, depending on possibly taking away some of this 2.26 petahash a second and maybe the 1 petahash a second that's solo mining somewhere off in the ether. So somewhere around there, presumably I went with the 33 petahash a second and ran that through a percent calculator, which gave us the 261% of the current hash rate, which is then calculated into the difficulty number here, which gave us this difficulty number. What this is going to give us is an estimate based on the current price of Kaspa for what the KS3 will make once 2,500 units have been deployed to the network. Now, this number could be much higher than expected. In theory, it could technically be lower too, because depending on how many retailers have purchased this and whether or not those retailers are going to mine on them while they're selling them or preparing to sell them is still up in the air. So that's kind of where I think there is going to be a little bit of play. I think initially what we were looking at was 40 petahash on the network. It looks like that's still going to be relatively accurate for by a little bit less here on the first batch for these getting shipped out. So I did go ahead and calculate that out with what to mine here. And I did put in a KS3 current hash rate, which is the 8.3 terahash at the 3188 watts. And then just added in the 10 cents per kilowatt hour and then the block reward of 174 Kaspa, because by the time these hit the network, it's definitely definitely going to be September 6th. I mean, if it's local to China and there's a certain amount of units there, I would presume we start to see those on the network within the week or so. So maybe a little bit earlier. But for anyone stateside here, this emissions reduction is going to take place, pretty guaranteed as far as that goes. So we adjusted that out, and then we got that difficulty number from the percent calculation that we did on the presumed 2,500 units getting added to the network. What that's going to end up being at the end of the day is going to be $149 a day in profit after power costs. Now, I did want to go ahead and continue our calculation for cost to mint at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, which is frankly, I think pretty low power. So what I mean by that is we could adjust this up a little bit more, but most miners should be at the 10 cents or lower, especially if they're putting in an investment of this magnitude right now, right? Because these are, you know, $50,000 units. And so once you start kind of calculating that in, and some people were paying 60,000, my assumption is these guys that are purchasing this are going to have a decent power rate. Even if you're getting hosted, it's not that hard to get hosted stateside for 7.5 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour, somewhere around there. 7 cents to 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So somewhere in that range, and you can get, you know, hosted. I think that these are probably what we're going to see. That would take the cost to mint down to 0.2 of a penny. Of course, cost to mint isn't going to be everything. There's still drive for adoption and so on. You still got to account, though, I think, for the selling pressure that will be coming onto the network too. How much that's going to be and how fast people want to try to pay these off is going to be up in the air, because keep in mind, if we have a, let's just say the 34,000 after the coupon cost of these, and divide that by the $149 that we got here per day, that ROI would be 228 days after adjusting for difficulty on these particular units. And that'll put you well into next year if you purchase one of these. So kind of wondering exactly how fast people are going to try to ROI this, or how many of the miners are going to try to hold this. This will be a miner's game, and it will be a large investment miner's game, and it will be interesting to see how they want to play this out. It really is going to depend on fear, I think, at the end of the day, meaning that these individuals that purchase these miners, how confident, you know, how much fear is driven if the price starts dipping and it pushes that pressure as they start to try to ROI, or are they going to try to prop it up? This is really interesting too, because as we've seen, the GPU miners and the FPGA miners have now completely moved off of the network, and that's pretty much, we can see correlated into FPGA hash rate going up significantly on Ironfish, for example, as the most recent increase in hash rate that I've seen, and that's where most of the FPGAs have gone. Most of the GPUs have just turned off or moved. Now there is still, you know, with Hivon statistics, a hilarious amount of Kaspa being mined. I think at this point, I think 7% still, yeah, on GPUs, which is still, you know, a little crazy if you really think about it, but because they're not profitable at all, if you even now, because FPGAs and the ASICs that have come from Ice River. And then, you know, as far as the FPGAs are concerned, they're a little bit more quick to adopt new coins and so on. And you've seen like the E300 and stuff get support for Kyla coin and Ironfish. So it seems Ironfish is kind of the choice for a lot of people. I think we see that with even on the GPU side, with Red Panda Mining running his for the past 30 days on Ironfish. A lot of institutional money behind that one, so I guess people are feeling safer with that. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the token distribution on that one. That aside, going back to Kaspa, let's go ahead and look at the new numbers for the revision, the second batch that's going to be coming out, which will be at the 9.4 terahash a second. So basically, we can kind of come back over here and snag this down, and we'll go 9,400, and then we will put in the 3,500 watts here and calculate that out. And what you would see with the second batch is that these units would be earning 167.25. Now the question will be, where does that price point come in? I don't know if it's going to be closer to that 30,000 mark or if we will get below that. That's going to be up in the air. So I don't know what the ROI on the second batch will be necessarily, especially because we also don't know if there's going to be a lot more units that were initially shipped with these initial batch of KS3s. So the question will be, of course, is what happens once these miners get them in hand? Will it be a selling frenzy? Will it be a race to ROI for these miners, or will they be trying to prop up the network? So we already saw a reduction of active addresses in the past 30 days from 28,000 active addresses on Kaspa down to 15,000 active addresses. This is because we have a lot less people mining with more hash rate, because the way active addresses will respond to less amount of miners on the network is that you will have less active addresses. That's because essentially the pools that were supplying for FPGA miners as well as for the GPU miners, we're taking the Kaspa and making payments out. So that's another indicator that we've seen on Kas.FYI, which I can show you here, as to the miners over the past 30 days, basically moving off, right? So you can see here, I think on the 24th, 27,000 active addresses. And then I think today, it looks like 15,000 have been active. That would actually be kind of a weird indicator. It's early in the day, right? It's coming around 6 o'clock today. So already 15,000 active addresses on that. Yesterday was 14,000. Interesting little pump up. I think that is because of the increase in the price of Kaspa that we're also seeing today. That's kind of the shift. You'll have less people that are going to be kind of controlling the network and how that functions. So you'll kind of be beholden to whoever those individuals that are earning all of this Kaspa are going to be. And I don't know who they are. And I don't know what their business models are. And I don't know exactly what their plans are, right? So that's kind of up in the air as far as that's concerned. So there's my update. We have basically a second batch of Kaspa miners coming out. The first batch has been pretty solidified, and there you go. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below so you can get notified for the latest cryptocurrency mining news as I can get to it. I will see you next Tuesday.